Welcome back. Now, in our previous explainers, we really dug into the massive, intricate world of workface planning for mega projects, right? We talked about those enormous teams, the heavy infrastructure, and just the massive resource pools you need to pull off those billion-dollar construction feats. But today, we're pivoting to something I think is incredibly powerful. We're looking at a lean, supervision-led blueprint that actually scales this exact methodology down from much smaller projects.
So let's dive right into this. There's this persistent myth out there in the construction industry. A lot of folks think that to implement workface planning, you absolutely need this heavy corporate overhead. We're talking a massive project management office, insanely expensive software suites, and just literal armies of specialized planners. But the source material we're unpacking today completely dismantles that idea. It reveals a highly practical, totally accessible reality where your existing field leaders can actually drive the planning process themselves without getting buried in all that bureaucracy. So, our lean blueprint follows 4 actionable steps: establishing a common language, empowering field supervision as planners, using the foreman's daily plan, and finally, measuring field data. Let's get into it.
Step 1, a common language. Before we can start building the walls of this lean system, we have to pour a rock-solid foundation, right? And that foundation is all about how we communicate. It all starts with the work breakdown structure, or WBS. Now, in a lean workface planning setup, the WBS isn't just some boring accounting tool. It's actually a hierarchical representation of the entire project that forms an absolute common language across every single department. Whether you're sitting in engineering, procurement, fabrication, or you're out there in construction, this structure makes sure everyone is speaking the exact same dialect. If we look at how this nomenclature is structured in the source documents, you'll see it moves perfectly from the macro right down to the micro. It goes from the plant to the train, to the construction work area, to the discipline, down to the construction work package, the drawing, and finally, the individual component. And what makes this so absolutely crucial is that construction logic dictates this structure. Since construction is ultimately the end user of all those deliverables coming from engineering and procurement, the size, shape, and contents of these WBS components are actually designed around how the facility is going to be built in the real world.
Moving on to step 2, field supervision as planners.
Okay, so once everyone is finally speaking the same language, we can move into the second phase of our blueprint. And this is where we see a huge, really empowering shift. We're putting field leaders in direct ownership of the planning process. To keep things lean, the source material relies on a very specific span of control. Basically, a superintendent supervises up to 4 general foremen within a single discipline. Then each general foreman supervises up to 5 foremen. But here's the real kicker. These leaders aren't just managing people anymore. They are active planners. The general foreman is explicitly responsible for taking constraint-free work packages and arranging them into a 2-rotation look-ahead that fits their execution plan. They are literally the ones steering the ship. And the best part? They track all of this work without needing some giant complex software package. It's based on a highly effective, simple Excel spreadsheet system called Pack Track. So every single installation work package, or IWP, is listed chronologically and then tracked through constraint removal using a really intuitive traffic light system. It starts as red, meaning there are critical constraints, like, missing materials or missing documents. Once you clear those major roadblocks, it turns yellow, which means only coordination constraints remain, like setting up scaffolding or safety checks. And finally, it turns green. Green means it is completely constraint-free and ready for the general foreman to pull right into their execution plan.
Which brings us to step 3, the foreman's daily plan. Now let's see how all of this builds down to the boots on the ground, capturing that vital information right at the workface itself. Now, for decades, the industry just relied on the old site diary, basically a passive, historical record of what happened yesterday, kind of like looking in the rearview mirror while you're trying to drive. Well, our lean blueprint completely replaces that with the foreman's daily plan. This is an active, truly proactive tool. It's a pre-shift dissection of the weekly work scope contained in the foreman's work package. It completely shifts the mindset from just documenting the past to actually engineering the day ahead.
What's really interesting here is how this daily planning follows a perfectly closed loop. So right before the shift, specifically during those daily crossover meetings at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m., the foreman receives their instructions and develops their plan. Then they go out and execute the work. By the end of the shift, they immediately log the actual progress, the time, and any barriers they hit. And all of that seamlessly feeds straight into payroll, project controls, and the barrier action log. Let's break down what's actually on that single sheet of paper.
The foreman's daily plan lists every single crew member and the specific equipment they're using. It details the planned tasks using specific function codes, and then it gets populated with the actuals right at the end of the shift. But most importantly, it collects payroll, progress, and delay data all in one single place. That incredible efficiency means your foremen are spending way less time filling out paperwork in a stuffy trailer and way more time out in the field actually supervising the workforce.
And that leads us to our final step. Step 4, measuring field data. So how do we take that single sheet of paper and use it to drive the entire project forward? Well, the foreman's daily plan gives us this incredibly streamlined triad of data that elegantly satisfies the base requirements for most project controls. First up, it captures progress through earned hours against planned quantities. Second, it captures time through a timesheet matrix that correlates work time directly to cost codes. And third, it captures barriers using specific delay codes. This triad gives project managers a completely clear picture of project health, but it does it without overwhelming the field workers with a ton of administrative burden. Now, the crucial point here is exactly how we define that third metric, barriers. The source procedure is extremely strict about this. A barrier is the total hours of unproductive time caused by an incident, and that's calculated across all the crew members affected, from the very moment work stops until meaningful work actually resumes. But listen, just as importantly, barriers are not scheduled deviations. They are not rework, and they are not scope elongations due to increased quantities. Stuff like that requires field change notices. By strictly defining barriers as temporary disruptions, management can accurately target and remove the exact, specific issues that are slowing their crews down today.
When you combine this common language, empowered field planners, daily proactive planning, and streamlined data capture, the results are, well, they're nothing short of massive. Projects that implement these exact workface planning fundamentals have experienced a staggering 30% improvement in overall productivity. No joke, 30%.
Let's break that success down with some rapid-fire industry metrics right out of the source documents. We're talking about a 23% increase in actual tool time, a 4 to 10% decrease in total installed cost, a 25% or even better increase in pipe productivity, and, this is wild, 45% of requests for information or RFIs being addressed before the work is ever even released to the field. I mean, this lean blueprint doesn't just look good on paper, it delivers absolute heavyweight financial and schedule results. All of which brings us right back to the core, elegant definition of workface planning found in the source manual. The process of organizing and delivering all the elements necessary before the work is started to enable craftspersons to perform quality work in a safe, effective, and efficient manner. It doesn't say anywhere in there that you need $1 billion budget to do this. It just requires discipline, a solid structure, and actually trusting your field supervision. So, I'm going to leave you with this provocation. Knowing that you absolutely do not need massive corporate overhead to achieve a 30% jump in productivity, how will you empower your field leaders and apply this lean blueprint to your next project? It might just be time to finally throw out that old site diary. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.